I'm gonna stop recording because it's super early.
Focus group.
Eight.
It is.
Oh, well, actually.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, it helps you turn this on.
So looks like we have a form, so let's start today's meeting. So first up, we have the approval of the TAC agenda for April 24th and 23. Make a motion to approve the agenda for today.
Second. We have motion and a second. Is there any discussion or changes? All in favor, say aye. All opposed? All right, thank you. Next, we have the approval of the TAC meeting minutes from March 27th, 2023. I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from the March meeting.
Second.
We have motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed? All right, thank you. Next, we have director's report. Chad.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Technical committee members, good morning. In this report, we have a few items. The first one is a federal certification. MPOs typically have a federal certification every 4 years. Last it occurred was in 2019. Now it is time for federal certification review in 2023. Primarily in those 3 days, on May 10, 11, and 12, Federal Highway Administration, Federal Transit Administration, and then some of our KDOT partners will visit and review all the documents, reports that staff have produced and the work products that we all have been working on. And some of the things you have approved, some of the items, documents, and key, for example, TIP is one, like Transportation Improvement Program, committed funding, and long-range transportation plan, and various technical documents are reviewed. Also, in general, a process, how well the process is followed, and all those guidelines, all those were followed. You're welcome to attend this public meeting because we always strive to improve, and any feedback you have, this is an opportunity for you as well. So just want to share where it is on May 11th in the evening in the Advanced Learning Library here in Wichita. So, and there's also a survey that if you see the packet, you can go onto the survey, and that's one way of providing your feedback as well. So with that, if you have any questions on that, Ashley Bryers of Transportation Planning Manager and myself are here to elaborate on that. Okay, The next item we have is a carbon reduction program call for projects. That's due in May 1st. So let us request Nick Flanders to provide a summary on that. Thank you.
Hello. Just this morning, actually, we sent out a reminder email to jurisdictions in the region and sponsors of current projects, reminding them that there's only 1 week left in the call for projects for carbon reduction program funds that WAMPO is running for projects in federal fiscal years 2024 and 2025. So it would have to be projects that will obligate no later than September 30th, 2025, and that qualify for the carbon reduction program funds, i.e. projects that have the specific effect of reducing carbon dioxide emissions related to transportation. And if anyone still wants information to help to get an application in for this, please contact us at WAMPO about it, and we can get that out to you if there's anything missing or confusing. And anyway, just to make sure that please get it in by 5 p.m. Central Daylight Time on May 1st, Monday, 1 week from today.
Thank you, Nick. Next item, we have any questions for Nick? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next item we have is Metropolitan Transportation Plan, public engagement, the long range transportation plan, the horizon year 2050. That's due in May of 2025. Let us request Ashley Bryers, Transportation Planning Manager, WAMPO, to give an update on public engagement. Thank you.
Thank you, Chad. We are working on developing a survey right now, and we're hoping to have it ready next week, really. And so then we'll be going to various pop-up events to talk to members of the public about the future of transportation and what people want. So if you know of any events that we could come to or any meetings that you'd like us to attend, we would love to know that. We'll be attending those pop-up events in May and June, and we're working on getting those scheduled currently. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. As you all know, the long-range transportation plan has many technical appendices that evaluates the impacts of transportation system. For example, how is it impacting environment? How is it impacting economic development? Also safety. So technical documentation has a variety of data and the existing conditions within our region. And this public involvement and public engagement is a good opportunity to see how one can learn the process and how one can provide an input into this process. The next item we have is, now we talked about the long-range transportation plan, the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. Now the committed short-range 4-year document called Transportation Improvement Program, TIP. Many of you are familiar with that. So Nick will update us on the project status. So let us request Nick Flanders to provide the status on the TIP projects.
Thank you, Chad. As you heard just 2 months ago, we are requesting bi-monthly project updates from all projects that are programmed to receive WAMPO suballocated funds in the current federal fiscal year, or that received them previously but are not yet completed. This is in accordance with the reasonable progress policy in the TIP policy document. This was recently updated at the April 11 TPB meeting, but this particular provision is still in it, so we're still getting those in. And so you can see the updates for this by month. on page 9 of your packets, or from scanning the QR code as the case may be. And so that is just so if you have any questions on any of those, or if anything it needs to be updated again, you can get that. You can please contact us about that. And just a reminder that coming up at the next one, we will be asking you to get information in by May 31st for the report at the June TAC and July TPB meetings. And on that occasion, also any 2023 WAMPO suballocated projects will need to be presented on by their sponsors if they have not yet obligated at that point. That is a new requirement as of the April 11 changes. So just to make sure that that is kept in mind.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Mr. Chair, with your permission, let me introduce a new employee at WAMPO.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Peter Moore is a recent graduate, last year graduate from Wichita State University with computer science degree. 7 years ago, he started his career in nursing as well, but he wanted to change his careers to computer science applications, data, GIS mapping, and some travel demand forecasting that involves some programming language as well. So, Peter, anything you want to say? Okay, thank you. With that, Mr. Chair, back to you. Thank you.
All right, thank you for coming to WAMPO. Welcome. All right, next we have public comments. Are there any comments that anybody would like to make about any projects or anything? Seeing none, we'll move ahead. We do have one action item. It's 2023 Unified Planning Work Program Amendment number 2. Ashley.
Thank you. So the Unified Planning Work Program, or the UPWP, is WAMPO's budget, and we complete this every year. The 2023 version was approved in December, and then we have to make adjustments as we realize we need to move funding around to different categories, or we want to do new projects. And so this is our second amendment, which includes 3 items. This is a very small amendment. We are just kind of cleaning some things up, including consolidating travel line items, adjusting the budget and anticipated expenditures based on planned work, and then adding the development of a bicycle pedestrian facility map using mobile apps. And that last one came from a comment when the UPWP Amendment 1 was approved by the TPB. We had a member ask, well, what about an app rather than just printing the map? So we're looking at doing both of those. So we needed to add it into our work program. The public comment period was 15 days as required by our public participation plan. We did not receive any public comments. This budget has 80% federal funding, and it's called Comprehensive Planning Grant Funding, or CPG funding, and then 20% local funding. And if this amendment is approved, the CPG expenditures total just about $2.4 million. So here are the action items and or action options, I guess, and staff recommends approving. Are there any questions about this?
Well, thanks, Ashley. I don't see any questions. So I'll go and make a recommendation that we approve the TPB, or that we approve the 2023 Unified Planning Work Program Amendment 2 as presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have discussion updates, East Kellogg project, Stephen Cross from KDOT.
Well, good morning, everybody. Like I said, I'm here to talk about the East Kellogg project. Again, my name is Stephen Cross. I'm with KDOT. I'm the project manager for KDOT, and also drug in Shane Albrighton, who is the project manager PMC for KDOT. And just to give you a little kind of a history on that. So basically, it's such a big project that KDOT brought in the project management consultant to help manage the project. So if you see Shane going around, he's also in charge of the project and knows a lot of the information as well. Let's see, get this going here. The project limits are from the interchange of K96 to I just lost my train of thought. Prairie Creek Road. So what you see on here is the project that we're actually doing. We're calling it phase 1 of the project. But the project limits of the phase 1 and 2 go from 96 all the way to Prairie Creek. Now with the project, we basically had 4 goals: improve travel time, reliability. I drove through there the other day and at 4:30, and I mean, we had traffic backed up all the way up on K96 on that off ramp and stuff. So there's definitely a need for, travel time and reliability. One of the other goals is to help support the economic growth in the region. We're already getting, all sorts of requests for developments in the area, especially in the Andover area. So there's definitely a need for some growth in the region. Project is obviously we want to deliver the project as efficiently and as economically as possible. This is a big project. The phase 1 of the project, we're actually looking at, it's about a $300 million project that we're going to be investing in the area. So it's a pretty substantial amount of money, but definitely a project that needs it. Minimize the durations of construction impacts in the region. So one of the things I'll point out here a little bit later in the slide is we really want to minimize impacts to construction. So we actually have the consultant that we've got on board, which is Trans Systems right now, and they're looking at our initial concepts from the EA, and we're making some tweaks to try to make the maintenance during construction as fewer impacts as possible. The NEPA boundary, like I said, is broken up into 2 phases. Phase 1 basically goes from 96 to just, we tie in right before we get to Onewood. There are some access roads that'll tie into Onewood. And then the phase 2 is currently not in any of the pipelines, but will likely probably be in the next, whatever the next big program that KDOT does. So when you hear phase 1, that's going to be the construction project that KDOT's going to focus on. And that's with the 3 interchanges, one at 96, 143rd Street and 159th Street. During the environmental assessment, we looked at wetland impacts, stormwater management. This is one of the, I don't know if it's the first, but it's going to be one of the first ones that we do stormwater control measures on, which basically, we're basically going to try to clean up the runoff that first flush that hits the highway, put it into some sort of either a basin or clean it up during the slopes, but we want to try to make sure that the environment gets clean from highway impacts. Traffic noise, I'll get into that a little bit more. I got a couple slides that I'll do that in more detail, but that's been kind of a hot topic in this area. We've got a lot of public comments on the environmental during the environmental process for noise impacts. And then you can see the other kind of the standard, community facilities, bike pedestrians, potential resident displacements, and right-of-way impacts. And so as part of the project, we try to minimize as many right-of-way impacts as possible. And that's one of the tasks that our consultant is going to be, hitting hard right off the bat, is identifying, what kind of impacts we think we're going to have, and then trying to minimize those as much as possible. Because we really don't like to do relocations. We really don't like to have to buy people's property. So it's a large footprint, and we're trying to, push it through a kind of a narrow corridor. And we were issued a finding of no significant impacts, or a FONSI, in late January of 2023. I'll jump to the noise a little bit. So KDOT did do the noise analysis of the existing area, and they basically put in, we hired a consultant, and they put in 277 noise receptors throughout the corridor and some of the higher density locations, and you can see the orange boxes or pink boxes, whatever you want to, whatever they're showing up there. Of those areas that were those noise receptors were put in. Those are the densely populated areas, and that's the ones that we really try to look at and analyze. As a result of the impacts, we really only found, which is actually kind of surprising, because we're basically going from a 4-lane to a 6-lane facility. But the way the alignment's working out is we're actually pushing the highway away from folks a little bit. And so surprisingly, the noise actually went down or is modeled to go down for a lot of the residents in the area. And there were only actually 2 out of the 277 noise receptors that actually had a that met that barrier threshold where, hey, noise walls, maybe noise barriers, noise walls could possibly be warranted. So that was actually a surprise. But right now we're not anticipating any noise walls in the area. Now I'll jump to the design and construction a little bit. The typical section, this is a typical section that would say be cut through either the interchange at 143rd or 159th. We are adding an additional lane in each direction, so that we're going to go from a 4-lane facility to a 6-lane facility with the frontage roads on the outside, similar to everything west of on Kellogg. So kind of maintaining that same typical section. You know, driver expectancy is the same throughout the corridor. And this is very similar to the typical section that will also be running through what we call phase 2 of the construction. Just that it's a desire of Andover to actually flip the highway to go underneath the side roads. So we'll see how that goes in the next phase. The K96, oops, it didn't move. Oops, I think, oh, there it went. The K96 interchange, we're actually, like I said earlier, we looked at this interchange with the, what's that?
Real quick.
Oh, close what? How do I get over there? Side, oh, it's left.
Just do the.
Reduce it. Oh, yeah. So the consultant's going to be looking at this interchange, and we actually just got a concept from them on Friday to try to minimize the impacts to traffic. So basically what we want to do is we want to try to leave the existing traffic on functioning at the interchanges as close as possible. So we're moving some ramps around so that we can maintain traffic during construction. So even though you see this was the EA concept, but we are going to make some changes. And hopefully, again, with the right-of-way impacts, we want to try to minimize those impacts. So we're actually trying to tighten some of the ramps up as well. At 143rd Street. There it goes. Going to be a very similar concept. It looks like the 2 signalized intersections on each side at the frontage roads is going to be probably one of the best options. 143rd Street also carries more traffic than 159th. So for now, we're going to continue with the design of pretty much this concept right here. And we've added, I don't know if some of you have been through, we had 2 public meetings and 1 public hearing, and we listened to the public comments. And so we've modified some of the access points. Like if you look down, can I point on this? I guess I can't, can I? Can't see that, can you? Okay, never mind, I won't point. But to the south of that neighborhood, they wanted to be able to turn left off of, if they're southbound, they turn left on into their subdivision at 143rd Street. So basically we added that little left turn lane there. And so that's kind of the concept we're going with. There were also concerns about the highway taking away trees to the north of those folks, both east and west of 143rd Street. So you can, I don't know if you can really see it on the exhibit, might be too small, but you can see the existing highway is pretty much going to be underneath the frontage road. So in this area, we're actually pushing the highway north a little bit to try to minimize those impacts to the trees and things like that. 143rd Street, if it pops up, or 159th, there it goes. Okay. So the consultant that we hired came up, I think, with a pretty good idea at this intersection. And instead of the signals, we're actually looking at possibly doing roundabouts. And so they're in the process of seeing if roundabouts can function, because there's not quite as much traffic at 159th Street as 143rd Street. So we think that a roundabout may be a good option at this location. It also, you can see that the frontage road on the north side actually turns and goes to the north. We think we can probably tie that into the roundabout as opposed to taking that additional property up to the north. So consultants currently looking at some of those options. Let me see, next slide. Project delivery, some of you may be familiar, but originally KDOT wanted to go with what they call the progressive design build delivery method. And through that process, that was actually shelved. And so KDOT took a step back and reevaluated the project and the project delivery method. And now we kind of came up with we call it an accelerated design bid build. So with the progressive design build, we basically hired a consultant and a contractor at the same time. Now we've gone back to the traditional type of method, but we are accelerating it. So we still want to deliver the project or get out to construction around the summer of 2025. So if you think about the life of a project in design, it gets kind of spread out. So what we're doing is we're trying to accelerate getting to what we call field check, which is about 50% design, which allows us to identify our right-of-way needs. And then once we have the right-of-way needs identified, then we can start progressing with contacting property owners and evaluating, what property we need. Once we get to that stage, which will probably be, I would say, at least by fall of this year, then the right-of-way process, because it's a lot longer time frame, that usually dictates the schedule. So that's where we get the extra time in the schedule. Design, it can actually go quick, but it's the other process of the utility relocations and the right-of-way that take a long time. And that last bullet you can see there is basically it's anticipated to be 2 years in design and then getting the purchase of the right-of-way and utility coordination. So what are our next steps? We have a letter going out to property owners in the area, notifying them that, hey, they haven't really heard from us since the last public hearing. So we got a mailer that's going to be going out to them and say, hey, we're still here. We still plan on doing the project, and we'll hopefully be contacting you maybe later this summer. So our goal is to get out ahead of the right-of-way process, and in the design process, we want to get a jump on, hey, let's meet with some of the businesses in the area and see what kind of access issues they have and the way it'll change, because a lot of them will be accessing frontage roads or backage roads in the area. So we want to get out ahead of that and have as minimum, try to reduce the amount of changes that we might have in the right-of-way process, and hopefully in turn speed up everything. Design is currently underway. Trans Systems was selected earlier, basically at the first of the month. And so they've been working on it since then. KDOT, we had a quick turnaround on getting a contract to them so they could actually start work. Pretty much, they could have started day one. Took a little bit of time to get that underway, but we got there. We have continued utility relocation coordination. Through the NEPA process or the EA process, we were already meeting with a utility company on a pretty regular basis and letting them know, hey, this is what's probably coming. We've got some of the agreements in place, or we're working on some of the agreements with them to get their designs. Some of the, the big overhead utility companies and some of the underground as well. Appraisal work. We actually started, since we thought it was going to be a progressive design build, we actually have 4 parcels that we actually started on what we call the early right-of-way acquisition. So those parcels are in the acquisition process already. The remainder of the other parcels, I think there's about 50 some of them. Those will be trailing along, probably starting in this fall when we have a right-of-way identified. Already talked about this a little bit, but we do want to meet with the locals this summer or early fall to get their input on how they're going to be affected. And with that, Shane, did I miss anything, you think? Covered most of it. Okay. Well, with that, we do have a project website that we're trying to continually update. Most of the information up there right now is from our last public hearing, and most of it covers up to the FONSI, the finding of no significant impacts. But as our design team gets more information developed and plans produced or exhibits produced, we do plan on keeping that up to date on a pretty regular basis. So the community knows what's going on. So with that, I'll open it up for questions if anybody's got any questions. I kind of went through that kind of quick, so. Yeah.
You explain about that, like access.
So let me see if I can go back to that exhibit. Sorry, it's frozen. So for Northwest access, oops, jumped again on me. So this is 143rd Street. And so we've had communications with the cities, the counties, and got their input. And so on the west side of 143rd Street, you see that red line right there is a little bit wider, which is basically it's a 10-foot bike path walkway. The other side is the standard 6-foot sidewalk. And that's and let's see, 143rd or 159th Street, it's flipped basically. So the east side would have the 10-foot bike lane and stuff. So we did try to accommodate that. Also up by 96, if you look at the south side, there's a frontage road that connects. Come on. You see that red line basically from the roundabout 127th Street on in, and there's going to be a continuous sidewalk on that side as well. So.
Okay, and what about east-west?
The cities are basically working on backage roads. So what we try to do from a highway standpoint is bicycle traffic and cars don't mix really well. So we try to keep them as far away from the highway as possible. But you will see on the south side here, that red line, there'll be a continuous sidewalk on the south side of the highway as well as the north side, but it's just a standard sidewalk on both sides. And we want to push them out to the frontage roads because that's as far away from the highway as we can get. But we do anticipate that there will be travel on those backage roads, especially in the Andover area. And you can actually see the red line on the south of that south backage road. So yeah, I can't read it. But yeah, this is the back of there. So yeah. Any of the red lines that you see on there are some people think they're right-of-way lines. They're not. They're just they're sidewalks or bike paths. So we do anticipate that there'd be an east-west sidewalk all the way through there. Good question.
What?
Going from where you should K96.
So K96, it follows the south side, that south access road from 127th Street. Sorry, it's frozen again. There it is. From basically that roundabout that's shown down there, that red line, it basically continues on. Yeah. So there's no sidewalk up on the north side. There's no real access. I would say that if that parcel in the northeast corner gets developed, they would probably include sidewalks in their development to get around. Other questions?
All right, I don't see any. I appreciate it. Appreciate the update.
All right. Yep. Do I need to do anything with this? That's fine. Okay. Thanks.
All right, next we have the committee and partnership updates. United Community Transit Coalition. Ashley.
Woohoo. Thank you. All right, thank you. So the next United Community Transit Coalition meeting is on May 18th, and this will be our second meeting ever. And we are also still in our logo design competition process. So if anybody would like to participate, we'd love to have you submit something. We have a first place prize of a $50 gift card and I think it was an honorable mention as a $25 gift card. So we only have one submission so far, so there's lots of availability for you to win. And the United Community Transit Coalition is all about trying to bring the various transit providers in our area together in order to coordinate. Thank you. And then, yeah.
All right, so next we have Nate with Wichita Transit.
Good morning, Nate Hinkle with the Department of Transportation, City of Wichita. Starting out with just some summer initiatives that we're working on. We are extending the free queue line route that's been popular for especially evening entertainment, access to dining options, things like that. Right now, it's serving Douglas between basically Seneca and Edgemore. During the summer, we're going to extend that and create what we call a museum loop. It's going to provide service to different museums and the library, Exploration Place, Mid-America Indian Museum, Wichita Art Museum, Old Cowtown, and the Advanced Learning Library. So that'll be a loop that we add to the route on the west end. It'll be going up and down McLean Boulevard and Museum Boulevard. And service will start on May 26th and be about 20-minute service increments, so a fairly frequent service that should provide good access for everyone this summer. That'll cover the entire span of the day from the museum hours and about 3 or 4 hours before and after museum hours too. That's possible because we've got a lot of bus service that's not on the street with the schools being out for the summer. So we're utilizing our current capacity to keep our drivers busy and service at its peak during the summer. As we've done the past several years, we have the Ride Summer Youth Program coming up. That's where youth can ride all of our routes free all day long. Any route they choose, all they have to have is a student ID or an ID that they can obtain free at the transit center. Information on both these items will be sent out via press releases on our social media and so forth. Recently, we held a information meeting at the Sedgwick County Health Department, provided information to a bunch of health professionals, about 175 people in attendance there, learned about all the different programs that we have to offer, provided them some information and so forth. Tomorrow I'll be presenting on the Talent Roadmap Leadership Coalition. We've got a transit spotlight that'll be basically analyzing the current situation for transit in Wichita and how that plays in with the workforce. Ridership has been very good this year. It's trending higher than it was in 2019. For the first time, we've recovered what we had lost during the pandemic, and it's about 5% higher now than it has been in 2019. The Veterans Ride Free program still stellar results. A new single month record last month in March of 5,188 rides. So well over 5,000 rides a month we're averaging now with veterans riding free. Schools have also been excellent. About 30%, 37% of our ridership is attributed to students this year. So that's certainly what's helped us gain back our ridership numbers. And as we see the semester wind down, that's why we're adding the additional summer service to see if we can keep those numbers up the best as possibly can. And then just a note, you also may have seen shared ride scooters returned to the streets this last week. So VO put about 200 scooters out on the street. So you'll see those starting to be more dispersed in the downtown area and beyond. But with that, be happy to answer any questions.
All right, I don't see any, but I do appreciate the update, and it's always great when you're providing free transportation for school age children and veterans. So appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, next we have other business. Is there any other business? Seeing none, we have adjournment. Make a motion to adjourn tonight, today's meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed? All right, thank you. Have a great day.